All right, so problem 17 here. All right, so we got an equal opportunity. So a company is sued for job discrimination because only 19% of newly hired candidates were minorities, 27% of all applicants were minorities. There's strong evidence that the company's hiring practices are discriminatory. Okay, so let's look at this situation. Okay, well, the first thing we're going to do is write the hypothesis. So what's the null hypothesis? Okay, the null hypothesis is the company is not discriminating. It's innocent. Always innocent until proven guilty, right? The alternative hypothesis is the company is discriminating. Okay, so they're guilty. Okay, so type 1 error. So what's question A? Question A says, it says, is this a one-tailed or a two-tailed test? Okay, so basically we would be looking only on one side of the test on this, because we're only interested if the company is hiring too few minorities, not if they're hiring too many minorities. So this would be a one-tailed test. Okay, the null hypothesis, let's say, would just be P equals something. You know, so many percent are minority, and then we want evidence that P is less than whatever that percentage is. Okay. And then question B is, what is type 1 error? Okay, well, type 1 error is, remember, type 1 error, H of O is true. Well, let's look at H of O. H of O is the company is not discriminating, but we find that it is. Okay, so we find we find the company guilty of discriminating when they're not. Question C, what's type 2 error? Well, type 2 error, H of A is true. Well, what's H of A? What's the alternative hypothesis? The company is discriminating, but we find that they're not. Okay, so the company is guilty, but we find them innocent, or not guilty. We don't find them innocent, we find them not guilty. Okay, and then you know, question D, what is the power of the test? Okay, well, power is always the probability of correctly determining that the alternative hypothesis is true. So in this case, the power of the test is the probability that we correctly determine that the company is discriminating against minorities. I'm speaking because half you can't read what I'm writing. I know that. So it's the probability that we correctly determine that the alternative hypothesis is true. So it's the probability we correctly determine that the company is discriminating against minority candidates. Okay, and then question E says, if the hypothesis is tested at the 5% significance level instead of 1%, how will this affect the power of the test? Well, there's 4 things that affect the power of the test. Sample size goes up, power goes up. Okay? Affect how guilty it is. More guilty, more power. Alpha, the burden of proof goes up, power goes up. And then when variation goes up, power goes down. Because we know when sample size goes up, variation goes down. So those have to have an inverse relationship. So what they're asking in question E is basically alpha. So as the alpha size goes up, that means the power goes up. You just draw that little diagram again, diagram it out. That's hypothesized distribution. Here's the actual distribution. Okay, there's the actual distribution. There's alpha. Okay, that's actual. Okay. So the probability that we get a sample that's in this region, so we would reject it, is this, right? So let's say that that's alpha equals 0.05. Now if alpha is 0.01, then that would be over here, and that would only be it would only be this region right here, right? Well, what's more powerful? Well, the bigger region is more powerful, so the larger the alpha, the more power. Okay? And then question S says the lawsuit is based on the hiring of 37 employees. Is the power of the test higher than, lower than, or the same as if it were based on 87 hires? Okay? I think that this is fairly intuitive. If you have 37 versus 87, okay, you obviously have more evidence if you have a sample size that's 87. So again, the defendant is guilty, we're trying to convict them. If we have more evidence, we're more likely to convict them. So if sample size is larger, whereas what we said right here, then the power to test is going to be higher because we're trying to convict a guilty defendant. Okay, so our power would be greater with a sample size of 87.